So this is before meaningful use, before hundreds of new competitors entered the market. And one of the big challenges was every time you go out and meet with a physician practice, you had to spend the first half hour to hour of the conversation hearing all their horror stories about health IT. If they had an electronic health record, they wanted to tell you why it was so horrible, why their vendor was god-awful. If they were still on paper charts, they wanted to tell you about all the horror stories that they'd heard from their colleagues who had deployed an EHR and why they would never want to go that route. So that was sort of the environment back then. And we're trying to come up with a creative way to differentiate ourselves with limited dollars. And our competitors, we really could stereotype them as being very inflexible, kind of arrogant, and these aren't my words, but things that we heard from other people, money-grubbing bastards. And back at this point in time, again, pre-stimulus, most doctors would rather adopt that baby than an electronic health record. So we're sitting around one day saying, all right, we need a viral idea, something that will propagate rapidly, that will spread like wildfire. And everybody looked at me and said, oh yeah, you're the marketing guy, why don't you come up with that? And just thinking, and I remember, other successful viral campaigns, people kicking around, and of course I'm making the comment that, look, a viral campaign, it's, you're lucky if you get something that kind of catches hold. For every successful viral campaign, there are probably thousands that never went anywhere. But we'll give it a shot. So using the creative process I developed back in my agency days, which is stay up really late and drink a lot of scotch, which seems to work. I looked at, what do we need to do here? And one of the things I was always a fan of in my agency days was a strategy of repositioning the competition. And I looked at it and said, how could we leverage all these negative perceptions out there about health IT companies? I mean, people already think that most of our other vendors that we're competing with are expensive, they're inflexible, they're hard to do business with. They force you to change the way you practice medicine to fit their software. Why don't we play off of that? So I said, what if we made a fake EHR company that is just sort of, it's sort of a representation of everything wrong with the environment today. So started with a name. Got to come up with a good name. So we came up with Extormity, which is kind of a combination of extortion and conformity. So high prices and from there, it really kind of wrote itself. Once you had that name, it's like, oh, this will be great. This will be easy. So had this idea, and literally, once I had the name, I stayed up all night and wrote the website copy in one fell swoop. So I scheduled a meeting with the owners of our company, and I was thinking, this like, God, how do I sell this idea? So I just went in and said, all right, here's the situation. Here's what I think we ought to do. And I expected a, are you effing crazy response. But, they looked at it, kind of laughed and said, yeah, that's really cool, let's do it. But with a twist, and that was, let's not tell anybody we're behind it. Let's keep that a secret, and let's do that for two reasons. Number one, if it blows up, if the response from the market is negative, then we can just walk away and nobody gets hurt. But on the other hand, it gives us an opportunity that if this does take off, we could build some intrigue, build some momentum. So that's what we decided to do. So we created an Extormity website. And you can go to extormity.com and take a look at it, and I encourage you to click on the links. It's a lot of fun. I mean, there's a fake executive team, fake history, fake client testimonials. In fact, if you go there now, you'll even see that in one of the links, somebody's hacked in and it's got like Cialis in there. And at first we're like, oh, we got to fix that. And then we thought, no, that's kind of cool. Just keep it that way. But again, there's a lot of fun stuff buried in there. And I'll tell you, once we got started, we just couldn't stop. And at the same time this was going on, you had, this was when CCHIT, C-Check was first getting started, and there was a lot of animus in the market about that. So we created our own fake certification agency, CD, the Society for Exorbitantly Expensive and Difficult to Implement VHRs. So, again, just had a lot of fun with that. And this was really a tightrope because we wanted to sort of poke fun at what was going on and the fact that at the time CCHIT had a monopoly, but we had to be careful because we also had to get CCHIT certified. So anyway, we created all this, so now it's like, all right, how do you get the word out, right? So we through some back channels, let a few bloggers know about it. The Medical Quack was, I think, the very first person to post it on it back in 2008. But what really lit a fuse was Matthew Holt from Help 2.0. Did just this teeny little post, and overnight, traffic blew up. I mean, we all of a sudden, like within a week, we had like 10,000 visitors to the website, and we were like, wow, that's amazing. And then it just spread like wildfire, and I'm just going to scroll through these really quickly, but we got picked up by a whole bunch of different bloggers, and it just sort of caught on. It had a life of its own. What's interesting is that Extormity has actually outlived a lot of real organizations, who covered us in the early days. We also went international. Here we are on the blogosfera. But even not just bloggers, but some of the mainstream health IT publications and just medical publications started to pick this up as well. And nobody was more shocked at the coverage than we were. And even this is where it really got fun. Like, this is a listserv for another EMR company where customers start talking about that and comparing their EMR vendor to Extormity. We had people out there trying to guess who was behind it. There were even a couple people who took credit and said, "Oh, I'm behind it," and they weren't. So there was all kinds of and again, the whole idea was let's go viral. Well, we created a viral campaign. And what we found is we struck a chord. We had an area originally where people could send in their comments, and the comments were really encouraging, and so much so we realized there was an appetite for this. So one of the things we started is Extormity alerts, and we now have thousands of people signed up to get these email alerts. And it's really easy. I just, I read like John's blog and Healthcare IT News' daily post, and anytime you read, about the latest bad behavior, we just make up one of these posts. It takes about 10 minutes to write, and we put it out, and then we always get a little bit more coverage and kind of keep the thing alive. So again, it's been a lot of fun to do, and for me, as an ex-marketing guy, it's a way for me to kind of go back and continue to plug into my marketing roots. But after a while, we did this, and we had this raging debate. I mean, we would talk once a month about when do we tell people we're behind it. And there were some people who were like, let's never do that. And I said, well, no, at some point, we want to make people aware. We think this could be valuable for us in some way, shape, or form. So we finally decided at HIMSS 11 to come clean. So we actually had a press conference. And this press conference was packed. I mean, I couldn't believe the number of journalists that showed up for this. What was really shocking is HIMSS asked me to speak from one of their main stages in character as Brantley Whittington III, who's the fake CEO of Extormity, which was kind of an interesting thing. So, but we did premium items like we handed out at our booth. We had stimulus endorsement check pins. The idea being that you just get your 44 grand from the government, sign it over to Extormity, and that kind of thing. And put some collateral together and had a lot of fun. And again, we got great PR coverage. So here's John from EMR and HIPAA doing one of many articles about the real people behind Extormity. And we looked at this afterwards, and we didn't do a formal study, but from everything we could tell, we got more PR coverage than any vendor at HIMSS 11 for a fake company. So we were through. So, you know, in terms of results, and I'll be honest, we haven't been overly disciplined about tracking this because we didn't, going into it, weren't sure what was going to happen. But we've had well north of 100,000 web visits. We've put out probably 40 different extormity alerts. We've gotten unbelievable press coverage, great visibility overall. Probably the most valuable thing is this is a great way to break the ice, because we still, when we go in and meet with a prospective client, the conversation usually still starts out with people bitching and moaning about health IT vendors. So we let them go on and kind of encourage it, and then we say, oh, you know what, let us show you something. You show it to them, they start laughing, you can kind of drive a wedge between you and everybody else out there, and it's a great way to start a conversation and position us the right way going forward. The other thing, people have asked us, you know, how long are you going to keep this up? And we've said, you know, as long as there is bad vendor behavior out there, as long as that continues, and it does, we'll continue to do this as a way to kind of shine a light on it. And I will say, I think, you know, and we hear from other people at other companies that it has made a difference, that people are in executive sessions talking about extormity, and let's make sure that we're not extormity. And we do that at our company. We actually, one of the things we do now when we're talking about a particular strategy or, you know, something we're going to do, we say, what would extormity do? And let's make sure we do the opposite. It's kind of a fun reminder, you know, to not get lumped in with the competition. But this continues. You know, we now probably once a month, every other month, we still put out an extormity alert. Most recently, I'm again shocked. At Health 2.0, they had me speak from the stage as Brantley Whittington III. So you know, they have a interview with CEO session. So you know, they promote the fact that the CEO of Aetna is going to get up on stage, but then they throw me up there and you know, have me talk about extormity. But again, it's been a lot of fun, and it was one of those things, as I said, going into it, we had no idea what to expect, what kind of response there would be, and how the health IT and the medical marketplace would respond to something like this. But I have to tell you, it's been nothing but positive. You know, we haven't, and again, we were worried a little bit about negative backlash, but we got none of that. So with that, I will relinquish my time, and we'll turn it back over to John. Thank you.
Can we have you speak the rest as Bradley?
Absolutely.
He knows how to speak as Brantley better than Jeff. No, what was that, a 4-year payoff on not leaking the news, right? I think he reached out to me and said, hey, you know, we're going to release this, you know, do you want to help us out? So, you know, we had the press release written beforehand on my site and my write-up and everything, so it only took 4 years of keeping quiet. 3 years, something like that. All right, next up we have Rick Weissinger. He's VP of Marketing Communications at Craneware. And, you know, I think you're going to find out really quickly that this guy was a rock star in his past life, and yet likely is a rock star in his current company. And you'll see why in his presentation on his Revenue Integrity World Tour.
Okay, well, that was a really, really hard act to follow, but the beauty of starting out with unconventional marketing is that I'm going to start it out unconventionally. The very first thing I'm going to do is rip off another presenter. I want to rip off Thomas Knoll from yesterday. Did anybody see his presentation at the end here? I thought it was absolutely terrific, inspiring, and one of the things that he talked about that I wasn't planning on talking about with this, but he talked about how it's really age to age, human to human, and people tend to forget that a little bit, and they forget about the personal, emotional connection. So the other thing that I'm going to do that breaks all rules and makes people very, very uncomfortable in Las Vegas at 8:30 in the morning is I'm going to try for a couple personal, emotional connections here. And this is how a typical healthcare IT vendor might do it. Hello, we're very excited about our technology. Our technology can process things 40 times faster than the next technology. We also have incredible workflow. We're very excited about our features and technology. Would you like to talk to me?
No.
Okay. Now I'm going to try it a slightly different way. So how about that sports event last night? Did you see the sports event?
I saw that it was on, but I actually didn't watch it.
But they were sporting very well, and the weather was great, isn't it? Isn't it great weather here?
It was fantastic weather.
It's not like the weather where you're from. Where are you from?
I'm from San Diego.
Well, it is like the weather. Right away, everybody does this all the time in a normal conversation, is they start to have a personal emotional connection. And we so often forget that. So the genesis of this whole Revenue Integrity World Tour was to figure out how to talk to people, not simply as a prospect. And so why do we do it, and why do we do this specifically? I can show you one picture to sum it up. This is me. I'm actually playing at a place called Club Rock in Reykjavik, Iceland. And I can tell you that if you're a musician doing a tour of Scandinavia, you have many opportunities to form personal emotional connections. Not many of them are healthcare IT related. But nonetheless, you learn a lot. And I got to thinking, when we really wanted to reach out and interact on a human level with our prospects, this isn't a bad way to do it, because who are we selling to? Largely boomers, people whose experience falls somewhere between Woodstock and Lollapalooza, and actually has a little bit of cultural cash between both of those. I mean, here they are. Who are we not talking to? I mean, that's another thing. You've got to consider, who in the world are we not going to possibly connect to? The Electronic Dance Music World Tour was not going to work. I mean, you know, Deadmau5 is cool, but I do not see people attend stripping balls to Deadmau5. So we decided it's a rock and roll tour. How do we get going? We name it, we come up with a logo, we decide we're going to turn it into a road show. It's got some continuity, you can tell some stories behind the world tour, you can make up stories, you can make up all kinds of things, but you're keeping in mind the entire time, you're making connection with people. You're speaking the lingua franca, the rock and roll. It's something that they can let their hair down a little bit at what's otherwise a pretty staid event. So we had to get a few of the details right. Fortunately, I had a little bit of experience with it, so I didn't get all the details wrong. You got to start out with the tour t-shirt. We did the tour t-shirt, we had all the dates for all of our events, we had it sold out on the back. Everything that we did lined up around the t-shirt and such. Strangely, these worked out great, the guitar picks. They had our URL on the other side. People just grabbed the guitar picks like crazy. And they were great ways to tell stories. Everybody has got a friend who's a guitarist. My son plays guitar. Can I have some of these pics? Take all the pics you want, because they've got our URL on the back for the landing page for the tour. We had tickets. One thing that we had was a contest in which at each stop of the tour you had an opportunity to win a $200 Ticketmaster gift certificate, and at the end of the tour, our #1 rock star got a $500 Ticketmaster gift certificate. And of course, we had our tour truck. This was something that we did on every mailer, really every piece of collateral throughout the website, because the truck, and again, you know, not to go too deep into my faux Joseph Campbell storytelling archetypal thing, but the truck, the picaresque road story, the tale of adventure, it carries a little bit of resonance. It's another conversation starter. It's one more thing that's going to break them down, keep them from saying, my widget processes at 40 million widgets per second, how fast is yours? We have improved workflow. They got to talk about something else. And most of all, we had the crew. This is all the Kramer folks who came to A&I last year, and you can see we've got the t-shirts going on. We had sponsored the post-reception party as the end of the tour party. We had bouncers, we had rock and roll music, we had a yellow carpet, we had people lined up to have their pictures taken in front of the backdrop. And again, it was about having fun, it was about interacting with our prospects as human beings and as people that we had something in common with and were forming an emotional connection with. Most of all, everything's a most of all, but this is really, really, really most of all, was the guitar. The guitar was the crux of the whole thing. I got a cheap yellow guitar, I put the sticker on it, and we had a contest. At each stop of the show, we would encourage people to come up and do their best revenue integrity rock star pose. Sky's the limit. You got to grab the guitar, you pose in front of the iPad, we would take the picture, and then afterwards they would enter their email address so that they could have their copy of the photo. We would copy ourselves so it went up onto our website. And they were obviously made clear they were going to be very famous rock stars, not just rock stars for a day at this point. And we got tremendous response. And as you can see, these are people who are not saying, I appreciate the fact that you're processing 40 million widgets per second. These are people who are saying, thanks Kramer, I'm having some fun at a trade show. Here's the quick grab of the website itself. You can see that we had hundreds of contestants. I do believe that Cousin It here was the winner. I can't quite recall. You can see she's got the sunglasses over her hair in front. And we just had a gallery. We encouraged everybody, because the URL was on the page, we encouraged everybody to go to the gallery, get their friends and colleagues to vote for the very best rock star pose. And there was a little tally thumbs up through the entire thing. We did direct mail, normal stuff. We had the truck, but again, we kept the theme about keeping it on the road. And then we had the very trickiest part of all, technically speaking here, the online video, which didn't work in my PowerPoint, but let's hope it will work here. This is just a little excerpt from it, but we did promote it with the video, and this one is kind of fun.
Oh my god, I think I caught the tour in Orlando or was it Atlanta? I don't know, but oh my god, like wow, yeah, talking princesses sounds so good.
Yeah, before I just used to be like, Charge Master, yeah, it's there. I know I really should be maintaining it, but whatever. And then I was like, man, automation, man. And it all came into place, and I listened to Craneware, and it just changed my life, man.
So we had some fun there. The actor there is my graphic designer. He's a multi-talented fellow. And so let the poster do the talking. You can see we kept kind of a tally on this giant poster of contestants and encouraged people to come around to the guitar. And like I said, it was engaging, it was fun. And what were the results? All right, quantitatively, we set a pretty high bar when we're at a trade show for what we consider real lead activity. We have to have a conversation before we enter them. So not counting the dropping a business card in the fishbowl people, we got 521 conversations from it that led to an actual, lead source being entered. And possibly more important, we had really positive brand associations. We had people remember Craneware. Whether they were remembering us as necessarily the leader in revenue integrity solutions or not, but they remembered us. And in the end, that's incredibly important in brand awareness. Final question, but I do it again. Not entirely sure. This is me and A&I getting the booth set up. But like I said, it helped form those personal emotional connections. It helped position us as more than widgets. It helped position us as more than the eggheads with the complicated software. It got us a lot of conversations, and I think it may have gotten us a couple friends. So I enjoyed it, and I think they did too, so thank you.
Thank you, Rick. Are you guys enjoying it so far?
Yeah.
Pretty creative, huh? Don't worry, there's more. So this next speaker, you saw a preview of this next speaker's presentation. The opening video was made by this speaker, and so he's going to talk about video marketing. And he's created some of the best, and probably the best. So I'm trying to think, can anyone compete with the videos he's created? The best health IT parody videos and other videos that I've ever seen, and I've seen a lot of them. And so another unique thing about him is he's the only guy I've seen where he captured himself on flaming skis. So that's Suban Dey, the videographer from New MD.
Those are really nice words. And I have seen a lot of parodies too, and there are really some great content out there. And I think we just try to kind of keep up with stuff, what's out there, and make fun content. So I work for NewMD, and we do PM, EHR, medical billing software, all those great things. And I like to say that we're funny sometimes, not all the time, because it is really hard to be funny all the time, and people wouldn't take us seriously if we were funny all the time. So let's just talk about why funny. Why do people take the time, the resources, the energy to put together content that's funny, that's entertaining, right? And I think the obvious answer is brand exposure, brand awareness, all those things, brand personality. When you watch Bill Gates and Steve Ballmer kind of dance, you kind of forget the times that you were frustrated with Excel or Word because this is something that's kind of fun to see and it's memorable, right? So for us, we kind of wanted to capture the same ideas here, was that we wanted to have a brand that was fun and for people to see us in a fun way. And one of the videos that we did first was Lady Gaga's interface, and basically our CEO was like, just go do something with Lady Gaga, I don't care what you do. And so what we did was we just got a wig and a couple of glasses and bow ties and made all the IT guys and some of the product guys dance to interface. And throughout this presentation, I'm just going to play short clips of some of the things so you guys get an idea of what we did. So let's just play a short clip of this. And we have to watch random things because we have copyrighted content. Let's skip. Okay, so yeah, it was a fun video, and let's take a look at some of the results. So obviously, brand exposure, we were featured on some of the blogs, that's really great. And HubSpot at the time, they wrote up a little case study on us and why we wanted to do it, and really it's the same reason that I just mentioned. We just wanted brand exposure. We wanted people to associate UMD with something fun, in another words, kind of state marketplace. But let's look at some of the numbers. So right now, the Lady Gaga video has about 22,000 views on YouTube. And the next thing I'm going to mention was really a big learning point for us. The retention rate was actually pretty low. I mean, that's 48%. So all that energy that we spent making the rest of the video was kind of wasted. And that video was a longer video. It was almost a little over 3 minutes, and most people stopped watching it after the first minute and a half. And that's something that we really should have paid attention to in the beginning. We had some feedback at the company like, oh, maybe this is a little too long, but I think we were too kind of biased and we just liked seeing ourselves on camera. So we just kind of ran with it, right? So note to yourself, don't make long videos, make them short, and listen to people when they give you feedback. Also, one of the comments that was left, and I think that kind of captures what our goal was, Boogie Rep said, definitely need some more HL7 and EHR lingo for us folks that understand and appreciate this. And that just really exemplified what we wanted to do. Is we wanted to have people that get what we were trying to do, that work within the industry, and I'm pretty sure this guy, a person does, and for them to appreciate it, for them to kind of look at something that's maybe memorable and they'll keep in mind later. And another one, around this time we were doing some other content as well, videos, and Dan reached out to us from Tracker Corp and basically said, how are you guys doing this? Are you getting outside people to come in? Are you hiring actors? All those things, and that he wanted his company to also create similar content, and he said, I want to sell our CEO on the idea of taking a similar approach to our very state marketplace, immigration software. I didn't even know people made immigration software. And one of the other replies, Dan mentioned that he thought his COO thought that we were spending maybe like $40,000 on some of these videos. And that kind of confirmed and validated for us that some of the stuff that we're doing, it's reaching out to people, and people do want to create similar content just to kind of get attention and do something more fun in their environment. And it also reflected on the fact that, for someone to assume that we were spending all these resources when we really weren't. I mean, we were literally spending maybe $40 on that Lady Gaga video, just buying small props, and that's pretty much it. I mean, we had my friends sing the song, so it really wasn't an expensive endeavor, other than them paying me to keep me working at UMD. Okay, so another video we did was new ICD-10 codes to try, and at the time, Australia, their metro system had a viral campaign called Dumb Ways to Die, and it was incredibly cute, and we immediately thought we'd have to do something with this because a lot of people were doing it too.
Take a spill out in the snow, and the cramps while tying a bow. Drink it up, it's out of date. Paper cuts from the get shot by a string of lights. Sore throat from singing Silent Night. Burn your mouth on apple pie. A branch from the tree pokes you in the eye. You close to try. So many new clothes to try. New clothes to try. So many new clothes to try.
Okay, yeah, so we'll stop there. There's a little bit more, but we can move on to the results stuff. Okay, so let's see. Yeah, so again, with this one, and right now you're not seeing YouTube embeds because we thought we'd try out something new. We were also wanting to use Wistia, which is, has anyone heard of Wistia? Yeah, they're really awesome, and I really recommend if anyone's interested in creating video content, they have really great resources on their website, and I really look up to them as far as like production quality and stuff because they do a lot of their stuff in-house as well, and it's just really awesome content they create, and again, a lot of helpful material on their website.
What's it called?
Wistia, that's W-I-S-T-I-A. They're basically, they create, it's a video, I guess, sharing platform, video hosting platform for businesses. Okay, so we wanted to just try it. Let's put the video in Wistia and share that with bloggers, and then let's let the YouTube version kind of stay on its own and not mess with it at all. The Wistia version is what we kind of put for our clients to see through our private channels as well as bloggers out there. So the results. Together, combined, there's about 34,000 views right now on it, and on YouTube, we had almost 28,000 views. Wistia, I think, was around 6,000. And the retention rate on YouTube was almost 80%, so people were watching the video almost all the way through, which was a really good sign that it was something people were actually entertained by, and they were willing to watch it all the way up until like the logo at the very end, right? And we also noticed that 64% of the viewers were female, and that's versus like almost like 50-50 for pretty much everything else that we do. And 29% of those were between the ages of 45 and 54. And if you Google ICD-10 right now, and you go to YouTube, because a lot of people are looking at training videos and things, that's one of the results that comes up on the first page. So we think that you're seeing all this really dry content, and you're seeing something that's actually kind of fun and cute looking. You're more likely to click on that just to see what it is, right? And you'll kind of sit through it, be entertained. So that's not, and so we think that maybe they are billers and coders. We can't confirm, but we really think they are. One of the things that his talk mentioned was that hopefully there's a code for getting a simple, annoying, and insanely catchy tune out of your head after watching a video. That really kind of hits the nail. We wanted to take something that was really catchy that people were already engaged with, and that video now has like 74 million views. It's an awesome video, and a lot of people were doing parodies of it, and we thought, why not use that to kind of bring attention to the ICD-10 transition, all the code stuff that's going on, and do something that's entertaining, and have our brand associated with it. Okay, next one, Miley Cyrus. She was really huge, obviously, and Wrecking Ball I thought was a really funny, great video. Well, not funny, but it's a good video to be entertained by. So we did a short parody, and let's take a look at that one.
We treat, we save, our patience rave, we work, never asking why. We try to play, do things your way, a game no one can deny. Don't you ever say doctors work this way, patient care's not up to you. We cannot sit by, see our glimpse at night, we want to get paid too. The bill came like a wrecking ball, nothing never hit so hard before. All I wanted was to get paid, all the players do is wreck me, you wreck me.
Some bloopers. Okay. That's actually Alex. He actually sang that song. We were going to use him for like a little informative video, and then he's like, "I can sing, guys." He's like, "We never do a video where you sing." And usually, like whenever we have new people come in, I always ask them, "Can you sing?" And So that, you gotta just use the resources you have inside, it's fun, and everyone has fun doing it too. Okay, so Med City picked up this video just on their own. We didn't really, push it out. I mean, obviously we pushed it out to John and a couple of other people, but Med City just kind of picked it up on their own, and they posted it, and the headline was "Health IT for UMD Channels Miley Cyrus and Obamacare Angst in Health Wrecking Ball Parody." And that really kind of captured us. What we're trying to do is taking something that's relevant, making that's also pop culture and relevant in our industry, obviously all the regulation issues that were going on, and just creating something that people can relate to in the industry, that our target audience can relate to, and that's entertaining and fun and highlights the issues that are there. And his talk said it might be funnier if it didn't hit so close to home, which is true. Okay, so let's look at some of the results. The interesting thing about this one was we kind of wanted to see what was happening on Twitter. Kevin, who's here with me, he does a lot of our social media stuff. He's really good at handling all that stuff. And we hadn't really done a lot of other social media stuff. We've obviously created content, but we didn't really push as hard as on Twitter as we could have, I think, with our previous videos. But anyway, so for this one, some of these people picked out the video on their own, and we did not push it out to them. And these are actual doctors. Our target audience. Anne Ruth in Silicon Valley, she has 4,500 followers. And Mandy yesterday mentioned that these doctors are on social media. They may not be speaking, but they are listening, and these people were actually listening and speaking, right? So there's Ruth. Kenneth, another doctor, who said, "Do not know if this is a good program for those that disenroll. We'll have to look into it." So again, that's a really great example of people that maybe have, will keep our brand on their list. And who are finding fun content on their own and remembering our brand. And another doctor out of Little Rock, Arkansas, just simply said, "Funny, smiley face." So these are people who are just finding content on their own, and that's something that we wanted. The retention rate on this one, 71%. We're pretty happy with that because the last 20 seconds is B-roll, or not B-roll, bloopers, so people are actually watching it all the way through. And 4.5K view is not that much compared to the other videos, obviously, but I think with engagement and the people that were actually watching the videos, with the examples of the Twitter stuff here, we were pretty happy with all that. Okay, the other one I want to touch on in 2 minutes, ICD-10. Again, we wanted to do something with all the codes that were coming up, and we created these block games, code challenge, where people would try to guess which code was being shown in these photos. And we just took random ones that we thought were kind of crazy and messed around with Photoshop, and they're purposely bad looking because it's just kind of fun to look at ridiculous things. And one of the messages we got after we put it, John Collins from Baltimore, Maryland, he works for Mercy Medical Center, emailed us and said, "I discovered your very cool ICD-10 Code of the Week challenge," and he was asking permission to reuse it for their training purposes. That's again an example of we did not reach out to them. That's not even our target market, the hospitals, but they are doctors there are nurses there, and he discovered it on his own. We did not shove it in his face and say, "Hey, look at this content that we created." And the numbers, those are part-time plus full-time, all the physicians that work there, nurses that work there. And also, Cario had ICD-10 tech tweet chat, and they retweeted one of our photos, and we thought that was really awesome. And he's not here anymore, but Tammy actually agreed to do one of these photos for us, and yesterday we got Mandy to do the, did anyone see her handstand that she did?
Yeah.
Yeah. That was for this, so a couple of other people. And we may actually come around and ask some of you guys to do some more poses for us, and we'll share it with you guys. Okay, so real results. We made this really informative video about meaningful use, and John left a comment. John Lynn, this is the John we're talking about. He said, "I get straight corporate video that seems like it came from ONC, a bit of a disappointment." That's real result, guys. When you kind of set yourself up and you make silly videos, people like John come in and say, "You guys need to stop, make funny videos. That's what entertains me." So, we sent John a reply and sent him this picture and the takeaway from all this is that we still create informative videos, we still create testimonials. You can create all those things, but you can also create funny videos, or even something as simple as those ICD-10 pictures, and you can put them up there. You can have your target audience find it on their own. You don't have to push it to them, right? So you can do all those things and include funny stuff, and it seems to be working for us, and it's fun to do. We like it. And also, other thing is, we create content where we put all the faces of our people in the videos, and we don't use external stuff. So that also, when people see our content, they're seeing the real people. There's like this level of transparency that's there, and we think that's pretty important too. Yeah, that's all. Thanks.
Isn't that awesome? I love those videos. and he's right about the words to that. I think I woke up this morning with the Waking Up in Vegas song in my head. And I'm not sure if that's a good or bad thing. But for a marketer, it's a great thing, right? So, thank you, Suban. Our next speaker, thankfully, is here, honestly. Stacy Goebel. She actually emailed me on Thursday or Friday and said, I've been in an accident and I got a concussion. And she's like, but I'll still be there. So thankfully she's here to speak with us. And she's the social media manager at Studio North. She's done a number of really creative campaigns that she's going to tell us about. So without further ado, Stacy Goebel.
All right, so that's kind of funny because, you know, is anyone watching American Idol these days? Anyone? Okay, so Harry Connick Jr. was telling everyone during Hollywood Week, don't tell me you're sick, because it totally gives discredits about what you're going to do. And so I have a concussion, so if I don't make sense, or you know, please forgive me. I'm really amped up and I'm not connecting dots really well, so please forgive me. So I am really proud to be here today to represent my team. And I gotta tell you, I love my team. We have so much fun. I work with brilliant, creative, just good people. And so I really hope today that I can just kind of bring their spirit into what I'm gonna be sharing with you today. You might be familiar with some of our work. We are the agency of record for CDW Healthcare. And in partnership with another agency, Outlook Marketing Services as well, they're a big participant in this. But we, for CDW Healthcare, do their direct mail pieces, maintain their web presence, create sales enablement tools, and do a lot of really fun, creative. Every year we come out with a calendar, a themed calendar. This year it's a road trip. I don't know if you're familiar with CDW's brand, but they have a Technoliner. This tricked out bus, mobility on the road. And so our calendar this year focus was kind of a road trip around the country. And so that's a lot of fun. Do podcasts, etc., videos, and you may have seen us at HITMC. This year HITMC is like Christmas. I mean, it is one of our favorite things to plan for every year. And so I know I forget, Dodge Communications, you're talking about trade show experiences this afternoon. I think that's right? Did I get that right?
Right after that. I'm actually on Brad Dodge.
Oh, sorry. So crazy. Okay, thanks. But anyway, we have a lot of fun. That's right. I'm totally embarrassed, but that's cool. So anyway, but we do we really focus on the pre-show, during show, and after show. And so you may pre-show, we love doing the HIMSanity infographic, just fun statistics about the conference every year. So we've had a lot of success doing that. And the trade show booth this year was a blast. We do games. How do you draw people to your booth? And we really wanted to create a great brand experience and also engage with our customers. And so this year, I apologize if anyone was around our booth at that time. We did a healthcare swears game a couple times a day, and had just a crush of people, and the trolley couldn't get past our booth. So that was kind of fun. We also did a "What Does the Doc Say" video. So what does the doc say? CCCCCW. So anyways, we just had a lot of fun with HIMSS and had a really successful year this year. But I'm not here to talk about that. I'll get to that in a sec. But my world as social media manager is to kind of maintain and run the web presence. So with my cohort, that's Susie. Susie, if you're watching, hey! So she's from Outlook, and we have, again, a blast together doing CDW Healthcare's Twitter account and running their blog. We also, a successful program we launched last year was the top 50 health IT blogs, of which there are a lot of folks in this room that are part of that. And it's been very, very successful in terms of driving traffic and building relationships, because that's really where our heart is at. Okay. Deep breath. I'm here to tell you today, I want to share our Heroes Who Get It campaign story with you. A while back in 2012, CDW came to us and said, could you we want to do an experiment. So we don't know how this is going to go. We want to do some kind of a social media experiment that would raise awareness, brand awareness. Their brand tagline is "The people who get it." So CDW is a technology reseller, right? They sell other people's products and they provide the solutions. And their brand positioning, people who get it, like, hey, we get IT, we get where you're at. So is there a social something that we could do that would tie into that? Of course, they wanted lead generation, right? Yeah. So create a list of contacts and create a simple and fun, engaging experience. So our team, wonderful team, got together and brainstormed. And I just want to share, just stop here for a second, just a couple points about brainstorming for me that really help. One thing is we all are on culture watching assignments. So as creatives, you know, we have to fill up our creative tanks. And, you know, how do you do that? You know, I mean, when you're working so hard, push, 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 you know, create, it's hard to keep creating if you're not filled up. So one little technique that we use is everyone's kind of assigned an area of culture to keep an eye on. For me, it's comedy. Like Jimmy Fallon, holy smokes, like I am all up in Jimmy Fallon, watching his stuff all the time. Another team member is really into sports. And so, you know, I'm sure she was definitely watching Final Four yesterday, so she, you know, kind of brings what's going on in sports commercials. And another person's really into politics. You know, hey, what's going on in that world? So it's just fun for everybody to have that kind of perspective and point of view. So we're always kind of filling the hopper with fresh ideas. Another thing with this assignment, who is our target audience? We spent a lot of time trying to identify, okay, who are we going after? And we determined that it was the IT staffer. And so what did we know about IT staffers? Well, some of us were married to some, and you know, my husband's a total geek, like totally into geek culture, right? So Battlestar Galactica and Transformers and all that stuff. And so anyway, so we thought, hey, this geek culture could be really, really interesting to tap into. And so we had, you know, when we come together and brainstorm, one of my favorite ways to come together is what's the problem that we're trying to solve? Kind of just ground ourselves into one singular thing. I think that helps make a productive session. So that was another pro tip. And something, you know, there's a question about, okay, how far is too far? Like, how do you know you've gone over the line and done, you know, come up with some really crazy ideas? Because for us, we love coming up with crazy ideas. We included our client along in the brainstorming process. Not all the time, not in every single session, but at certain points where we kind of had maybe like our top 5 ideas, we ran them by our client just to say, hey, what do you think? And one of the ideas that we came up with that we pitched actually was a Toss Your Cookies app. It was around Christmas, and CPW used to send out these tins of cookies. And anyway, so it was this game where you would like flick, you know, the cookies and try to hit grandma and the reindeer and everything. And you know, in the end, that was kind of like, well, that might be a little bit too far. So we came up with heroes. So filter your ideas through the brand lens. What supports the brand at large? And so our solution was to celebrate IT heroes everywhere with the heroes who get it. And what we created, you know, essentially was an app, like a mobile optimized website that you could, you know, play with on your phone or on your desktop to create your own superhero character. You know, again, you know, heroes who get it. Hey, well, here, let me show you what you did. You got to pick, you know, your gender. There are different body styles and poses and hairstyles, and you can customize it with colors. And do you want a cape, or do you want, you know, glasses, or what? So it was a lot of fun to create the character, and then kind of the magic, like we didn't expect, was the name generator. This ended up being great fun. So what you did is because every superhero needs a name, right? A superhero name. You would put in your initials and hit, you know, whatever, get started, and it would bring back a name for you. And so this was hilarious. So this one example here is Alkaline Powerhouse. So we had a bunch of names in there, and it would pop up. And you could select your own too. But, okay, pro tip number, I don't know, whatever, 5. You have to watch these things when they launch, because there were some combinations that we didn't anticipate, like inflated dongle, or Inbound Horseman, or whatever. So anyway, so we were deleting names out of our database. Oh gosh, we can't do this. Because you know, the internet, they get involved and it's fun. But it was a lot of fun. We were dying at the studio. So anyway, so once you created your hero, you can share it. You know, obviously we wanted this to be social and spread kind of through social media. So you can share it through Facebook, Twitter, or email with a little call to action. Hey, I created my IT hero, you can too. And then you got to give people a reason. I mean, this was a really fun reason. I mean, I would love to like make my own avatar, like Mad Men avatar yourself, totally, anyone. But we wanted to give people a further incentive to get involved. And so we did a weekly sweepstakes where the winning people got a custom t-shirt with their hero character and a phone skin or a tablet skin, so that was pretty cool. And the grand prize winner got a life-size cutout of their character and a 3D printed figurine, and again, t-shirt and some kicks, some sweet custom sneakers there. So it was a blast, and people had a lot of fun with that. And so here is our grand prize winner, the Wi-Fi Tempest. So he was pretty great. And oh, and there were emblems too of, you know, like different kind of techie symbols. And then here are some of our weekly, and it was kind of fun too to see, one of the options was to upload your own face. So how many folks kind of uploaded that we connected to Facebook to bring their pictures in. And so that was also pretty fun to see. But the names, you know, Awkward Butterfly, SEO Edge, Stormy Hat Trick, you know, it was a blast. This was super fun. Okay, so how am I doing on time here? What was great for us, actually, so sometimes, you know, when you create things as an agency, you make the thing and you don't get to promote it. We were really lucky in that we got to also help with the promotion of this. So we did a super powered launch. Oh, and wait, another story. Okay, I gotta tell you this. How many of you love your legal department? Okay, we love lawyers, okay, we need them, but this campaign was originally called Superheroes Who Get It. And about 2 weeks before the campaign launched, legal said, wait a minute, you can't use the term superhero. Because, like, you know, Marvel and DC own the copyright, and CW's, you know, is conservative, and they were concerned about you know, people going after them. So we had to change all the creative 2 weeks before the launch to be Heroes Who Get It. But, you know, hey, that's what late nights are for. So anyway, we were, one of the big successes, I think, of this campaign is we were able to leverage obviously CDW does a ton of marketing, so we were able to kind of hop on the coattails, is that the right phrase, of a lot of activities. We were able to get an ad in a catalog mailer, get on their website, emails, there were ads and emails and things that were already going out. So that was pretty cool. Worked with a lot of new teams to get that done. Also, CDW Corporate Facebook was really supportive of this. I mean, the visuals, I mean, we found an awesome artist that helped us out with the hero art, and so that was a blast. So it just looked really great on Facebook with that visual content. The other thing that was pretty fun is it was also at the time where the Charles Barkley campaign, the first Charles Barkley campaign, if you've seen those, came out. So we were able to make like a Sir Charles IT hero, so that was cool. But I loved, we had a blast too with the copy, the promotional copy, faster than a fiber optic line, more powerful than a terahertz processor, able to update multiple devices in a single bound. It's an IT hero. Create your own, da da da. So, you know, we had a lot of fun with the language of it all. We also created a Twitter account, Heroes Who Get It Twitter, and you know, you talk about one-to-one engagement and you know, creating relationships. We, again, had so much fun. People would be sharing their characters, and we found that when people shared their character, they were also kind of telling a little bit about themselves, kind of their superhero qualities. So really had a blast kind of acknowledging them and thanking them through Twitter and recognizing folks, which was way cool. And then also you gotta get your internal team, because you know, it's great when you do all these things externally, but if your internal team has no clue what's going on, then it's kind of like, you know, your customers are calling up, hey, I just made my hero, and they're like, what are you talking about? So anyway, so we did, you know, 6 or 8,000 person company, we did a lot of internal promotion as well to get the word out. So okay, metrics. This is how actually we presented metrics to our clients. So we did it in an infographic format, which, you know, I'm a big fan of infographics. If you get to know me, you will know that. So in terms of website traffic, drove a ton of traffic, 19,000 visits, and this was an 8-week campaign. and had 78,600 page views. So it was really successful in terms of driving traffic, and these little, you'll see little light bulbs along the way. We learned some interesting things. Now remember, this was an experiment. CDW came with us. We wanted to experiment with this and get a kind of a baseline. And so we found that 2 years ago, 90% of the people who came to visit us were from desktop, and we thought it was totally going to be mobile. So that was an interesting thing, for moving forward and doing this kind of campaign in the future. Really make sure, the experience is great. Okay, one of my favorite statistics here, the metrics, in terms of creating an engaging brand experience, people spent 5.5 minutes with us on this website. And that, when you think about a YouTube video, sometimes the engagement level, can be 30 seconds or a minute or, whatever. It was really exciting for us to have 5.5 minutes of time spent with the brand. Other things we learned here in terms of sharing, that about a quarter of the people that created heroes shared them. So when it was shared, 38 of the people that were shared to, 38% came and created their own character. I am a huge believer that if you can get other people to share on your behalf, it is way more effective than if you share, and so this was a great way to that happened. Another thing, 14% of the folks opted in to receive emails from CDW. That accounted, I think it was about close to 700 leads, so that was really sweet too. We were pleased with that. Referring traffic, cdw.com, email, and share clicks brought the most traffic. And all in all, there were about 4,600 hero characters generated. And we were again really proud to celebrate people the behind the scenes who are in IT. Another stat that we really liked, the 92% completion rate. So there were a lot of steps into creating your own little character, and 92% of the people that started finished. And that was another thing we were pretty psyched about. And we learned some great things about our audience along the way. Mostly male, we kind of guessed that for the IT staffer kind of target, with 68% male, 32% female, etc. And then brand reach and engagement, a lot of sharing. Sharing is huge for us. We love that metric, and the potential reach, over 100,000 potential reach in terms of impressions. And, this is a good one too, conversation rate. That was a metric we came up with. For every one time something was shared about this, we got 2 responses on average. And so again, creating a lot of engagement around this. And then just a couple mentions here. Again, the magic of this and the relationship and the goodwill, not one negative thing was said, but I love this. I owe a huge debt of gratitude to the IT hero in my organization who worked diligently to restore my corrupt PST. Thank you. So to see that, we saw blog posts of whole teams getting their hero character, and it was way cool. And even to this day, we see people, they still have their avatar on their Twitter or their Spiceworks profile, and that's kind of rewarding too. So after 2 years later, it still lives on. So that's our heroes who get it, sorry. Thanks.
Thank you. Well, if you guys are like me, you have a few thousand questions. So we're going to invite all the panelists to come on up and join me up here. And we also officially found out, it's the other secret I've been holding besides extremity, Brad Dodge and Scott Collins from Aria and Dodge are twins, separated at birth. You can tell Brad stole Scott's nutrients in the womb because he's about 6 inches taller, right? All right. Well, I saw a hand already. Chandras, you want to start us off?
Yeah, I just have an exclusive for John. I spoke with my CFO, my wife. We're acquiring extremity.
If you have a big checkbook.
It's all fake.
They're expensive, I hear. I hear they could be on the market, though. Go ahead, Michelle.
I think you guys did a phenomenal job on all of the things that you did, and I, as a marketing head, drool and dream of being able to do stuff like that. But my budget is very small, so I would really love some kind of cool ideas or things you've done on a small or zero budget that had a positive effect on your brand.
So, how do you come up with ideas on a budget that you can do a
Better funny.
Yeah, so a couple comments on that. First, the extormity thing, I mean, we spent almost nothing on it. I mean, it's, and again, we had a little bit of internal resource usage to develop the websites and do some of the initial setup. But in terms of out-of-pocket costs, I think we probably spent, I'd be shocked if we've spent $5,000 on the whole thing. So I think what's more important is it all comes down to the power of an idea and a really, really strong strategy. I think anytime you go into something and say, boy, we've got a ton of money to spend, there's a tendency to spend it foolishly because you can throw money at the problem. I'm a big fan of, even if you've got an unlimited pot of funds, go into it during the concepting phase with the idea of what if we had zero budget or we had $5,000, what would we do? Because that forces you to really come up with a sound strategy. And then, of course, if you've got unlimited money, you can build on that.
I'm interested to hear Suban say, video production can get super expensive, right? So how do you do it on a budget?
It's the opposite, actually, because, I mean, yes, it was really expensive 15 years ago, right? But now, I mean, things are so cheap. I mean, when I was editing videos, like, for fun in elementary school, middle school, I had 2 VCRs connected together, right? But now you can, edit, shoot, upload a video directly from an iPad. That's crazy. So really, it is about an idea, and I totally agree. We don't spend any money on these videos other than me being employed there. We just use all internal resources, people that we already have. So it is really about an idea. And like I said, places like Wistia, if you can just find someone who's somewhat interested in photo, video, whatever it may be, just have them look up Wistia or whatever other. There's tons of resources online. I mean, it's crazy. You don't need to go to school to do any of this stuff either. It's really about idea. And don't spend any money on it. It's not needed. You already have your social media people. You already have creative people.
Yeah, one note about that though is that we often tend to think that the capital budgets, especially financial, are the things that are the hardest to get, but it's not. It's the intellectual budget necessary to say that these things are important. So when you say to yourself, "Can I do this?" It's actually not. It's rarely a money problem. It's more often, like in the case of Extormity. The idea was very, very important, but the buy-in by senior executives who spent the intellectual capital to say, okay, we're going to do this in the times when you're going to do up these updates, et cetera. They didn't come to him and say, hey, why are you wasting time on creating a newsletter instead of going out and doing sales or doing, quote, proper marketing? So the struggle here, especially for humor-based marketing, is most executives are not that humorous to start with, right? So,
CFOs.
So given that most executives aren't humorous by nature, if you thought it was hard to get them to agree that social by itself is important, humor is even that much harder to do. Yeah. So I would say work not on budget and capital like that, but look at the intellectual capital and work to see how do you get either the funniest or the most creative executive out of the team that you can get buy-in from, and then everything else actually will find its way in, because once something is important to a company, it gets done. And the only reason it won't get done is not because of money, it'll be because it's not important to the company.
So I think that, that's really one of the cruxes. I'd love to hear some thoughts on how did you get buy-in, how do you get buy-in, what's your approaches? And you obviously have the agency perspective, so how do you as an agency convince the client that you should use us to be creative?
Right on. I alluded to it in my presentation. I think bringing them along in the brainstorming process helps because they're not surprised necessarily. Like if you really want to do something crazy, that helps. Bring them along in your process. The other thing I would say, kind of going back to the earlier question. Social media relatively is cheap. It's creating the great content. You've got to have something great to get it out there, but sometimes running these experiments on a smaller budget just to try and see what happens through social can be pretty effective. So
how about you, Rick? What was the process of getting buy-in?
Well, in our case, this was really the first time we had a cohesive theme for events. I mean, obviously we've run campaigns and had an identity and had our brand promotion, but for our trade shows, we'd never really had any overriding theme tying them together. And it wasn't a very difficult sell to convince leadership that, look, we're going to have a lot of people who are repeatedly exposed to all of our trade shows. I mean, they may not attend all of them. They're going to get the mailers, they're going to see the emails, they're going to go to the website. They should have consistency of brand experience. And I think the other thing is that no matter what you're doing, if it's humorous or if it's a little offbeat, it's got to be grounded in a real truth. It's got to be grounded in one of the central precepts for your entire brand. And in our case, yeah, the world tour and the guitar picks and all that was kind of nutty, but it was all grounded in revenue integrity, which is absolutely our bread and butter and what we are completely determined to lead in. And so because it was grounded in something that everyone from the CEO on down already believed in, it wasn't really that hard to sell.
I want to dig into your last comment. Would I do it again, right? And you said maybe. You know, can you what's your thought process there?
A lot of the time, it's funny. You know, you think you've got this great campaign put together, and the idea is fairly sound, and some of the pieces come together easily, but just the logistics of handling a lot of little things. I mean, for instance, all right, just shipping an electric guitar all over the country over and over and over again, along with your trade show stuff. The very first case we bought was destroyed. You know, the guitar was getting dragged out. The decals were coming off. You know, keeping track of the picks. Making sure that people were sober enough at the show that they knew their email address correctly so that they got their copy of the photo. I mean, it's just the little things that can really, not so much trip you up, but to just start to add up.
That's the first time I've heard of sobriety at a health ID.
You've never seen that problem? Right, Scott?
I was thinking about something that happened around the time the extormity thing first came out, and all the other stores make think of it too. There was another very large EMR company based in Boston that they tried to do a viral video, humorous viral video, and it was like an old-fashioned kind of medical school, lecture to doctors in the amphitheater about how to get paid or how to avoid denial or something like that. It was supposed to be funny, wasn't it? Stupid.
I know what you're talking about.
All right, and
I don't, so obviously it wasn't
It's
funny.
great. You gotta watch it. It's great.
I mean, it's great. Like if you get the joke and you know about revenue cycle and stuff like that, it's okay. But it never caught on, and I thought it tried really hard to be funny and tried really hard to go viral. I tried so hard to do it, and I was trying to think about what the difference in what they were doing and what you guys did. I mean, one of the things I think is a common thread is all the humor is very self-deprecating, really. You know, you're making fun of yourself as much as anything else. You're saying revenue cycle is boring, but we're going to pretend we're rock stars. Or, EMR's, companies are a little messed up, and sort of including them, but mostly everybody else. But anyway, I was thinking maybe that's one of the threads, but I'd be interested to hear what you guys think are, what makes the difference, because it's really like a fine line between something that goes over and something that flops.
So what are the keys to kind of going viral, or is the golden goose? Who's the viral expert up here? Jeff?
Well, I'll make a couple comments. I mean, first of all, we weren't sure if it was going to work or not, which was one of the reasons we decided not to associate our name with it at first. That way, if it was a big dud in the out in the market, we'd just say, "Yeah, I wonder who did that." But then, I think a couple things that we were very careful about. Number one, extormity, as you said, it pokes fun of all these stereotypes across the entire category. We were very, very, very careful never to name names. Let people draw their own conclusions, and people did. People would comment about, "Oh, that sounds like this company or that company or my company," but we always stayed above the fray. And the whole idea was, look, this is just a parody of the category as a whole. The other thing, at the end of the day, if you're going to be funny, it has to be funny. And one of the challenges that we've had, actually that I've had, is once this took off, then I had a lot of people volunteering to help, and including some of my fellow executives who were like, "Oh, here's an idea for an extormity post," or "Can I see the copy on that? Let me tweak it a little bit." And after 2 or 3 of those, I said, "No, you know what?" And in fact, I'm fortunate enough that I have the trust of my colleagues that I don't run it by anybody. So I write them, I post them, they see it at the same time the market does. And it's just worked out better that way, because at the end of the day, it's like we need to have one voice for this campaign.
Can I also chime in? When I said great, I meant in a bad way. It's really bad, but it's great in a bad way. And I think one of the things is, something like that, I don't understand how people didn't see it before they put it out and said, this is really dry. Why are we putting this out? And one of the things we do is, we have like an internal Facebook kind of thing called Yammer. I don't know if you guys know. Like, we try to put things on Yammer before we actually put it out. And I think most of the time, if you kind of get pretty good reaction from people at your company, people are liking and commenting it, you get a sense of if something is already kind of good enough that people will like, right? And I mean, we've made mistakes with some of our videos, and I don't know if we're going to get into mistakes later. But yeah, I mean, like, there are certain videos that we've done that were just like too political, and people weren't really, reacting to it on Yammer, and we're just like, maybe this isn't going to catch on. And sometimes we didn't even listen to them, and we put it out, and it just kind of falls flat, or it doesn't really go as far as we wanted it to go. So I think really kind of getting reaction from people internally, that's a good way to gauge, if it's going to work.
Reminds me of stand-up comedians, right? Aren't there venues in LA that are like, this is where we go try our stuff, and we kind of cut our teeth. So maybe it's testing it, kind of like that. So, Carl?
I'm very disappointed in exterminating you. You don't really have a true gag rule. You can't really be a good HR company unless you have a rule that says anything that's negative that you think about our product or services you can't say. And that, you just have to have that, or you're just not part of the big league.
or should they have a gag rule if you say something nice about them? I don't know.
Well, that would destroy them.
So one of the things we've tried to do is take things that would normally be perceived as a negative and turn them into a positive for exnormity. For example, several years ago, when all of a sudden you couldn't pick up a post from John or something from Healthcare IT News, and you always read about the latest breach. And that still continues. I mean, hardly a week goes by where there's not another data breach. So we did an exnormity post, an exnormity alert, about the fact that we at exnormity actually encourage data breaches under the guise of, no PR is bad PR. So again, it's taking these negative things and having a little bit of fun with them.
One note, John. So yesterday we talked a little bit about how potentially some participants of the conference here itself could assist with KPIs. I think it was one of you guys asked a question, right? Yesterday. Maybe if it's helpful, if there is a kind of like a smaller set of people necessary to view some of these things, that's something that John and I could talk about, maybe creating either a private group or something, where if you guys have some ideas, you want to throw some stuff out, you can throw it into a private group. We could discuss it there. That's like your stand-up comedy club, where it doesn't get publicized, it doesn't get televised, but it can be tried out to see, does it make sense? So if there's any interest in that, do let us know. Because Carrie actually asked a question yesterday about how HIMSS Analytics might be able to help, because I suggested that. So anybody looking for that KPI help, definitely touch base to see if that's something that HIMSS Analytics, which helps with a bunch of other research, could do. I doubt sending humor marketing to HIMSS Analytics would help, but perhaps we could send...
Yeah, but if we had a group for the HITMC, right?
Yeah.
The conference, we could bounce ideas off
It's
each
a new
other.
hashtag, HKPI, so humor KPI.
Yeah, KPI. Go ahead.
How do you address a CEO who says that poking fun, like I wanted to do an ICD-9 of the week on my Twitter feed or whatever, says that that's making fun of an industry that we're supposed to respect?
Well, no, I mean, it's actually a terrific question, and this is why it's your peers, right? If you have folks in here who have done this, and there's a CEO that you can pick up the phone and say, hey, why don't you talk to another CEO who's done this? I mean, we should take that very, very seriously, because you asked the question, I bet half the audience here has precisely that same problem. And what we should react with is to say, I'm happy to provide you, my CEO as a reference or another CEO as a reference. You've got CEOs all around here in various capacities that would be available through other marketplaces. So reach out. Peer-to-peer is the way people get convinced. Doctors convince other doctors. CEOs convince other CEOs, social media people convince other social media people. So that is the power. I mean, what you just said is common. That, the fact, don't let us fool you that any of this is easy or that it's trivial to convince. It's absolutely not. And you need other peers that would help them out.
Right, I was just trying to take the mundane and make it fun for the doctors who came across our site or ourselves.
Yep.
To say, hey, they get it.
Yeah.
And they're in the same boat as us and you know, as a human.
Yeah. Now, hard part for you is to stay consistent. I mean, somebody who said no last month, something may have happened in the last month that he might say yes the next time. So definitely don't give up, but look for the peers.
I would also add to that, one thing that, when we started off with social at CDW, it was extremely conservative. I mean, there was a lot of fear about entering social, and I think what happened is, like small victories, you know, you try something really small, and the idea of a pilot, it can be really helpful. We want to try a pilot of this one thing once, and let's see what kind of response we're going to get. And what happens over the course of time is you build trust. And so that at some point, you know, you can do something a little bit more out of the box.
Can I also add? So, you know, I'm pretty lucky to be working at a place where, you know, the mandate comes from the very, very top that we have to create this kind of content, right? But I totally understand that a lot of people aren't in the same situation, and I think it is really important to say, hey, can we just test this out? And this isn't like it's going to be something that's on the front page of the website. That's not the first thing people see, right? They can see your informative content. They can see more grounded content. Maybe this could be something just that exists on your blog. Let's just test it out and see. And I think the other thing is, you know, just like you said, testing. Just try it with a small group of people and see if you find it funny within your organization. But really, I totally agree with the pilot thing.
Did you have something to say? It looked like you had a comment, Joy.
I was gonna. You had mentioned it in your last topic about like we're all human, like you were saying yesterday. And then when you think about what it is you engage with and what we engage with, it's not necessarily the business speak. So it's hard to make a case from the CEO point of view that well, that's what people want, but they're not. They're people. People want to be entertained. People want to engage with what they're
right. And once engaged, then they'll go in.
Right.
And I'm just going to say one other thing I forgot to add is I think you can easily create content that isn't mean, right? Because you can, as long as it's not mean, I think you're okay, right? Because then you're not hurting anyone's feelings or anything like that. So just play, you know, finding that balance is, I think, is what it is that makes people be okay with it.
It reminds me of doctors wanting to open up patient portals. They're like, no, I'm afraid to do that, right? I know one doctor who said they had a patient portal, he was afraid to do it. He said, the only reason I'm going to let you do this is because I want to prove to you that this is a bad idea. and so they opened it up. He said, thank you, I'll open it up. And they opened it, and the doctor came back and said, you were right, you know, I didn't die, you know, you know, they didn't overwhelm me, right? You know, it wasn't an issue. So, I mean, maybe that's a strategy you could use with your CEO. Can we try this, and let's prove that I'm wrong, you know, and see the results as well. Anne-Marie?
Yeah, just a question about doing parodies of popular songs. Is there any copyright infringement going on there? Has anybody ever, Lady Gaga call you up and tell you to take it down?
No, I mean, you know, I think, like, yeah, if it's predicted, you mean like YouTube catches it and they flag it?
No, I mean, it's legally protected.
Yeah, right. I mean, I feel like as long as you're not, like, really selling your product through the parody, because then it's not a parody anymore, you're just trying to sell your product. I mean, I think we're kind of on the edge with our Lady Gaga, because we're talking about our HL7 interfacing capabilities. But the other ones, we weren't really selling our product. I mean, we were just talking about an industry topic, right? So, yeah, I mean, everyone else is doing it.
So parodies are allowed under copyright.
Don't quote me on that.
Well,
there's no lawyer on stage.
There actually was, if you remember back in the 80s, Weird Al Yankovic, I believe, was sued. There should be case law. So if you're actually looking for legal, that is case law. I think it's from the late 80s, early 90s. Now, the tricky part about, not forgetting the parodies for a second, if you use someone else's copyright to sell either something that's competitive to them, that is tricky. Like, you could actually get into trouble if what you're doing is competitive to them with their own material, right? So there is a trademark issue in many cases, but songs aren't trademarked. So you just have to see what about the content is being protected. But the parody itself is not a problem. It's the trademarks and other things used in the parodies. Like if you use logos, if you use other things from Lady Gaga. So in these cases, we were inferring through an implication made that it's Lady Gaga. Nowhere did we actually say you know, this is Lady Gaga in
That's
there.
true. You didn't use her voice. You had singers sing, right?
Yeah.
So that's true.
Yeah, we did a parody one, if you Google, I think it's, or go to YouTube and look at Extormity Testimony or Extormity You Can't Handle the Truth. We took that old Jack Nicholson, Tom Cruise scene and then overdubbed. And yeah, our attorney was like, well, you know, Extormity's not a real company if they, you know, we haven't actually sold anything, so give it a shot.
Ask forgiveness, then permission.
I actually tweeted out on at EHR and HIT a list of YouTube, funny health IT YouTube videos that I've been aggregating over time. I think I need to add a few more of his that I forgot about. I just started doing it 3 months ago, so you can see some other examples as well. Beth?
One thing about the, you know, you said keep it clean, keep it not mean, so avoid meanness, right?
Yeah.
And I think one thing to just keep in mind for all of us is that at the end of the day, the client is the hospital, right, or the physician practice, and at the end of the day, what they do is life or death. So I think as long as we also respect, you know, that at the end of the day, you're talking about maybe somebody dying or living, and that's what we do.
Yeah.
So you have to kind of respect that as well.
Yeah, no, I totally agree, and even like creating stuff that's too political, right? I mean, we did, what is that song from the 70s? I'm Just a Bill, right? So I'm Just a Bill. We wanted to do something with the healthcare.gov launch, and you know how that turned into a disaster. So turning Bill into a sorry. Yes. We basically wanted to parody that and show that how the website turned into a disaster. And the way we kind of stylistically did it, we tried to make it look like it was from the 70s. So you know, instead of widescreen, like square box, kind of really muted colors, and it kind of felt, you know, there were some scenes where like the lighting was dark and it was all animated, but it just felt like it had like a darker tone to it, and it also felt too political, and we just didn't get a lot of, you know, traction with it, so we took it down. But the thing is, when we created it internally, Kevin and I kind of played around with ideas and made the song. We liked it, like we were in love with it, and as the marketing team, we liked it a lot. But it's one of those things where we were kind of working in a silo, and you're like, yeah, this is great, this is funny to us, but you know, it may not be, you know, too funny to outside people. And there were a couple of people within the company that weren't too crazy about it, and we should have listened to them, because even those small voices, you know, that means something. That.
So how do you handle the fear of that negative perception? You know, I'm going to do something. I mean, yours could have said, you know, well, you guys are in extremity, you know, like you are too. You know, like how do you handle that fear and deal with it? Or, you know?
Yeah, well, you know, I think at the end of the day, if you look at great marketing, it takes a reasoned risk, and you know, we had some internal discussions about the, you know, the perceived risk involved in this whole campaign. And again, that's why.
That's why you didn't say the name.
Yeah, at first that's part of why, but again, when we quickly realized
even
that.
Coming out, you could have had the same.
Well, yeah, and that's why. I mean, we had ongoing debates about when, if ever, did we go public. But the thing I would point out is that I think the real risk in marketing is to, especially if you have a lot of money, is to do something so safe and boring that nobody cares. And you know, back to your question about humor, and it may be that your brand, that humor is not appropriate. And several of the speakers talked about kind of looking through the brand lens. But that doesn't mean you shouldn't do something that's outside the ordinary. Because if you do the same thing everybody else does, and your ads, your marketing looks like everybody else's, then so what? It's all about differentiation. And as the kind of the rock tour idea shows, you know, that wasn't, I don't see a lot of risk. I mean, that was a great campaign. You know, it wasn't, I mean, there was some humor there, but it was very different. Obviously differentiated their organization from all the other, you know, revenue cycle management companies out there. But, you know, for us, it came down to, you know, you've got to do a risk-reward analysis. And then you kind of have to go with your gut after that.
If I can add just
I was going to say, if you've never been to A&I, you know all about conservative, right?
Yeah. I mean, that's not the most risky thing, but I've actually, I suppose if I have any reputation whatsoever, a very small one, it's for having used humor when I was on the agency side for a few places, and it's honestly, I think it's always been successful, but I think that the things you have to keep in mind, and a lot of the speakers throughout this entire event have said this, first of all, you've got to have a core essential truth. You can't just go off on a limb. It has to be rooted in a reality. You've got to be speaking the truth ultimately, even if you're saying it in a neutral way. Second, you've got to tell an engaging story. It can be one of the 6 archetypal stories, maybe you've come up with a new one, but there has to be an engaging story that affects people on a human level. And third, you've got to respect your audience. And that means if you're going to use humor, you've got to let them in on the joke. You've got to realize that if you're going to make fun of them, you've got to be making fun of yourself at least as much. And you've got to help them be part of it and help them create the joke. You've got to let them kind of in on, yeah, we all realize certain aspects of our industry or our job or this legislative pressure are a little bit silly, but ultimately it means something. So let's have a nudge, nudge, wink, wink, but we're not shooting it down. And I think that the key to me is letting your target audience in on the joke and letting them participate and not just shoving it down their throat.
Excellent. Well, we're up against the clock. I went over purposefully because I knew there was lots of questions, but I knew we have a break later that we can make it up. So first, let's thank our panelists, all of them. Excellent.